K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com. K98talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98talk.com.
Six out of 10 Republicans recommend FTR Radio to everyone they know. The other 4 are rhinos. FTR Radio, online at FTRradio.com. FTR Radio salutes some of the great Democrat presidents in the radio era. FTR Radio.
You're listening to Liz and Tayor.
Alright, so why can't I get another tattoo? Come on.
Because you get another tattoo, then you start talking another gun.
But not the movie star. The battling duo from the right war on FTR Radio.
Oh, come on.
You're the one who said it.
That was a joke, partially.
Enlist in the right war. Won't cost you nothing. Not as good as military service. But it's got to count for something, right?
Good evening, folks. Thank you for listening to FTR Radio. I'm Liz Harrison. This is The Right War, and I've got Taylor here. And I have an important question for you, Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
You got ink, so did you go gun shopping yet?
No, I have not gone gun shopping yet.
Oh,
I'm saving up.
Oh, okay.
I'm saving up.
See,
well,
the
I
rule
buy...
is you save up enough money for both the tattoo and the weapon.
You know, I had some unexpected expenses last year that kind of kept me from being able to actually buy the Noveski that I wanted to buy. So,
okay,
you know,
okay.
I'm just being patient.
Yeah, world's smallest violins playing for you. Anyway, we have a guest tonight, and I'm trying to think here. How do we introduce you? David Brown, right?
That is correct, yes.
Yes, we're not using pen names anymore.
Right. That was quite some time ago.
Right. And you're one of the big league guys who we see in, the Atlantic and what other
The Week.
place? The Week?
The Atlantic, The Week. I'll have a piece in Vox, I think next week. It's up to my editor. So I'm everywhere. Anyone who will pay me, I'll write for.
That sounds like a plan. Capitalism works. Or else we'd really pick on you for the Vox thing, but...
They're very good people. They're very good people.
Hey, as long as the paycheck doesn't bounce, they're very good people.
That's correct. They have excellent personal hygiene. It's wonderful.
But in case y'all are wondering, the reason why I said under the pen name or not, you may have come across his writing before. It's called Deep State Inside the Government Secrecy Industry, which was, of course, under the pen name.
That's correct. It's D.B. Grady.
D.B. Grady.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So basically, that is one that talks about something that I always want to bang my head against the wall about because, people in journalism, they regularly forget this. And I'm one of those evil journalists that has a clue of what it is to be dealing with the five-sided monument to inefficiency because my dad worked for them for years and had me edit everything. Which meant I couldn't get a passport. I don't know if I can yet. I might still be red listed. But, yeah, he told them the truth and told them, oh, yeah, by the way, my daughter is doing all of this and this is her name. So, yeah, they wouldn't let me get the passport, and they occasionally would yell at me and say, we need to have somebody come out and interview you. And whenever my neighbor who works for the U.S. Department of the Navy, she had her FBI background check not too long ago, I had the FBI person all upset because I knew the drill. I knew the questions before she asked them. So I'm there answering them before they came out of her mouth completely. And she's like, you know this drill? And I said, yeah, because I've had it done to me.
You know too much. Right.
Yeah, I know too much. And Dad started out in cryptology and communications at Fort Gordon many, many eons ago during the Vietnam War era. So I have a clue that, most of his military record is black-lined or missing. So, yeah, classified information matters. And while the government, this one in particular, this administration leaks like a sieve, but we still don't know a lot of the things that go on. And people don't understand that necessarily, especially when they see something like we just saw. The authorization to use military force.
It's going to be it's certainly going to be an interesting debate once Congress takes this up.
Yeah, and 4 little pages, which are arguably just the icing on the cake, so to speak. This is what the people see, this is what Congress can make public, but I imagine there's probably at least the level of Obamacare before all of the regulations, so we're not talking floor-to-ceiling paper, but we're getting close. Background stuff that some of the people in Congress will have to review, depending on their committee assignments, correct?
You're certainly correct, and a lot of people have pointed out that the proposed authorization for use of military force, it's really almost irrelevant to this particular conflict. The president has all the authority he needs from 2001, and so it's interesting to see, well, what are the motivations here? And I would suspect that a lot of this is about sharing blame in case things go south. And judging from the president's track record, that's a good chance of happening.
Right. Yeah, he wants to be able to lay some blame on Congress if something goes wrong, for one.
And it's extraordinary. I mean, one thing we've seen since 9/11, or one thing we haven't seen, rather, is Congress really take much of a role in oversight of anything at all. And this applies to the intelligence community as well as the military. They simply, I think if you're an average congressman or average member of the House from nowhere, USA, you don't want the blood on your hands. In other words, I'll paint a particularly grisly scene, and I hate to even vocalize it, but let's just, I mean, we know right now that special operations forces are on the ground fighting everywhere, really. But certainly they're going to be involved in this conflict. At some point, we run the risk of, say, a Delta Force guy being captured, put in a cage, and set on fire, broadcast on the internet. First of all, we have to ask ourselves, how are we going to handle that? That's going to be a terrible day. That's going to be a 9/11-like day. When we look at the president going to Congress about this, is this particular authorization bill? Is he looking for some cover here for when that does happen? And Congress, on the other hand, are they willing to step up and either own this or not? I mean, these are questions that need to be answered, and I hope that the debate in the coming weeks and months really addresses this. But I'm afraid that this is going to be one of those things that is passed as quickly as possible so that we don't talk about it anymore.
I'm on record in saying that I don't think we should go to war against ISIS because I don't think it's our fight. While certainly some of the we certainly deserve some of the blame with it because of going to war in Iraq and just how that ended up happening afterwards. But at the same time, is this really our fight?
That's one of those questions that I can see both sides, and I feel, I guess in my heart, I feel on both sides of the issue. Is it our fight? Of course not. It's not our fight. ISIS does not threaten us at present. At present could be kind of the pivotal phrase, or the pivotal phrase there, but I can only speak for me personally. When I do turn on the television and I do see mass beheadings, that runs a sort of a chill down my spine, and just of total horror. Not only as it relates to what's going on in Iraq and what was created in the power vacuum when we pulled out, but certainly, almost as a human being, I start to wonder how far away is the rest of the world. There are so many questions there. The appeal to that, and how close we are to sort of going into the abyss. And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know that anybody does. But when I see that, my first reaction is we must stop it. I don't know what it is, but I know that I don't like it. I don't feel personally threatened. I don't think that anyone's going to be beheading me in the next 50, 60 years. But at the same time, I see it, and it just strikes me as something that is so repulsive, just as a human being, just as a creature who breathes or converts oxygen to carbon dioxide.
Now, David, you have been published over at The Atlantic. I wonder, did you come across Graham Wood's recent article on ISIS?
It was an extraordinary piece, I thought. And I was surprised that The Atlantic published it, quite frankly. But he's a genius writer, and so they were very wise to do it. But there's a great line in there, and it's true. He said, "The reality is that the Islamic State is Islamic, very Islamic." I mean, that kind of really encapsulates it right there. And I wonder, why won't the president say this? I understand politically why he doesn't, but at the same time, if we're going to commit American ground forces, and although the authorization says, well, not for any enduring operations, but that's a meaningless phrase. I mean, what does enduring mean? Enduring offensive ground combat operations. That could be 6 weeks, or that could be 6 years. What does enduring mean in the context of a post 9/11 world? So, but if we're going to commit troops, if we're going to put the 82nd Airborne on the ground, then we have to be pretty forthright about what that means, and who we're going to be killing and who's going to be trying to kill us, or more depressingly, who is going to be killing us, who is going to be putting bullets in our people.
Right.
Let's just say who they are.
Right.
That's step one.
Well, the other issue that I have with it, for better or worse, I've been covering Middle East and AvPac and all of this for more than I care to remember. A longer period of time than I care to remember. But ISIS, Wood nails it. It's an apocalyptic group. We're talking David Koresh land here, or Jonestown, only far more brutal, and using a far more brutal guidebook, namely the Quran. So, I'm sitting here thinking, is this our fight? You were saying, no, it's not. I'm not entirely sure I can agree with that for one simple reason. The way that they have globalized their recruitment and the fact that Western nations have been failing miserably at figuring out who is doing what, who is going there, getting training, and then coming back.
Right.
I'm sorry. I don't have any faith in the concept that we don't already have individuals that have been trained by them sitting here in the U.S. waiting patiently for orders to unleash some manner of terror on U.S. soil.
You are correct. I mean, that's a very strong possibility. Conversely, you could say, well, but they haven't done it yet. I mean, if we're going to say that these guys are a threat, let them blow up a McDonald's. That's a gruesome thing to say, but let them do something. And once they prove that they can do it, then we have an enemy. I mean, as I said, I'm sort of on both sides of this issue, and I hate to be that kind of wishy-washy person. If we decide to go there and crush them out, I would be perfectly happy to see all of them dead. I mean, this is a circumstance where I think everybody the world over says, yeah, that is a large group of people who needs to be dead. We don't need them on the planet. They're not really helping things. At the same time, are we the ones to do it, or perhaps more importantly, is the president the person that we want to be leading this particular operation? And
right.
I hate to go down that road, but let's face it. After I think this is after he was reelected, he very boastfully said, elections have consequences. Well, we're certainly seeing that now, aren't we? I think we all have to live with these consequences, and it's very unappealing. So, is he going to get authorization? I think he certainly is, and I suspect, based on what Boehner was saying, that they really want to give him a bit more robust authority, if only because the next guy might actually want to fight this war. So, we'll see what happens. I don't imagine that Barack Obama's man who's going to turn down power. So, yeah. I guess it's up to Congress.
Well, basically, I'm thinking that the fact that he's gone to Congress leaves the Republicans, for better or worse, and I don't know if the Republicans are actually going to stand up and take the opportunity to somewhat take the reins, which, if Obama's trying to shift blame, he's probably not going to stop them,
No, you were exactly correct. The Republicans,
I mean, people are complaining about the 3-year limit on the timing. That depends on how you put it out there. Like I've said, I said on the air previously on my daily show, if it comes out that they say that the 3-year limit is not a hard limit on operations, but is actually a stop point for reassessment, taking into account that in 3 years we will have a new sitting president who will have been in office for 1 year and will have had enough time, given that it's been 1 year in office, to have some idea of the efficiency of what is actually going on the ground, and reassess and determine whether to extend the existing order, request that be extended, or change it. So if they put it out like that, I think it might not be that bad of a deal, because it's not like saying to the enemy, well, you just have to sit us out for 3 years and then we'll be gone.
Right, but, I would only counter that by saying it's not like these guys are sitting around reading the New York Times and are going to say, oh, well, let's talk about the finer details about when America's going to surrender. Right now we know they're surrendering in 3 years. They're not going to talk about that. They're going to stick with the broad strokes, and the broad strokes say 3 years. All we have to do is last for 3 years. We can do this, and they can do it. And right. The Taliban proved it. They're certainly doing well, and I dare say, in 2.5 years, I'll come back on this show, and I can almost assure you that we're going to be talking about the Obama administration, the outgoing Obama administration. Making overtures to the moderate members of ISIS. It's coming. I can tell you it's coming. If you'd have told me on September 12th, 2001, that one day we would talk to the quote-unquote moderate members of the Taliban and trying to find ways to put them back in power, or at least bring them back to the table, I would have said that you're insane. And now I'm going to say, well, I guess maybe the members of ISIS who didn't directly set people on fire, maybe those are the guys we could put in power. I mean, it's a horrible situation, and that's where we're at. Sometimes I feel like I'm ranting and raving when I say it, but I can't believe this is real life. Meanwhile, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. You said meanwhile. I want to hear what you had to say.
Well, I was just going to complain about something else. It's very interesting to me the way this particular military authorization bill has been received and covered. Because if you'll recall, 6 months ago, Rand Paul said, we need to declare war on ISIS. We need to be serious. We need to bring Congress into this. And I recall very vividly. In fact, before I got on the phone with you guys today, I was kind of looking around the archives and seeing what the deal was, and he was ridiculed soundly. He was just, what a moron this Rand Paul guy is, because he's going to give legitimacy to ISIS. He's going to make these guys the real deal. What a fool he is. Our benevolent president is much wiser in avoiding doing that. So here he is. So here's the president once again coming late to the table. That's the second time with ISIS, because the first time, if you'll recall, obviously everyone recalls, when he called ISIS the JV team. So every step of the game, Obama's a good 6 months behind schedule. So I don't even know that this authorization will last 3 years. It'll probably last three and a half years, because he's going to need extra time.
Yeah. Well, and I guess my question is, because this is what I want to try to figure out. If I thought that we were going to be willing to go into Iraq and Syria and completely wipe these guys out. And when I say wipe these guys out, I mean wipe them all out.
Right.
I still wouldn't be in favor of it, because I still don't think this is our fight. But I would at least sit there and say, okay, you're going to try to win a war the way that wars are supposed to be won. I mean, we beat the Germans not because we happened to – I mean, it was partially because Hitler ran out of – well, Hitler was a madman, but also because we bombed their cities.
Correct.
We defeated Japan because we used the atomic bomb twice. Why aren't we willing to do this with ISIS? Or the Taliban, or Saddam Hussein, or everybody else?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of, I guess, different levels or layers to that particular question. But I would say that I'll stick with the present for now, and simply say that what is victory here? I'm kind of curious. I'm actually curious what victory is. How do we decide when the Islamic State is defeated? If we just look at the war in Afghanistan as sort of a parallel here, do you guys know what we're doing there? Like, have we won yet? Have we lost? Is there any definition to it, or are we just going to do this forever? Because we're not really making any progress on the ground. And I could very easily see that same situation happening here. And with respect to that phrase, enduring forces on the ground, I believe it was, I dare say that if we put 82nd Airborne in for, 3 months, and then rotate 101st Airborne in for 3 months, is that not enduring? Is that enduring? We're rotating quickly. I mean, there are so many nuances here that it is a totally meaningless document. As for fighting a war and winning it, I mean, right now, based on what we see in this bill, if this is sort of telegraphing, if the president's telegraphing his punches, he's saying, well, I don't want to lose. He's certainly not saying he wants to win. If he wanted to win, he would say, give me everything you got. I want as much power as I can because I want to crush these guys into the ground. He's not saying that. He's saying, well, I don't want to do too much, but I don't want to not do anything. Well, that's not how you fight and win a war. That's not how you – I mean, that's how you almost intentionally lose a war. That's losing with purpose.
Exactly. But maybe, and I'm being very generous here, maybe Obama realizes something that I have been suspecting for a while now, and I've been relatively alluding to, and that is that right now we are being faced with a situation that is not unlike what we saw in ancient times, the rise of the Israelites through the years of the Old Testament, when they waged war against many tribes and won to maintain their existence on the planet. And then later, the Holy Roman Empire, the Spanish Inquisition, etc., which, we had the president refer to the Crusades. That's not necessarily what I would put in the same category. But what I am talking about is the growing pains of a theological movement, namely Islam. They are going through stages that we have already seen predefined in Judaism and Christianity. And these did not take a short period of time for them to go through. No, it was hundreds of years. And it involves religions that had been started with relatively violent roots, or extremely violent roots, slowly moving to a point where they are no longer violent. Of course, I was amused whenever Ms. Harf from the State Department brought up Coney, saying that we still have violent Christians. I would argue he's not a Christian. He never was. But that's neither here nor there. Because his justifications were coming from the Old Testament as opposed to the New Testament, and if you're a Christian, you refer to the New Testament.
It's pretty... look, let's face it. If you have to make excuses for people who are burning people alive in cages... I'm
not making excuses.
I'm not saying you are. I'm subtly placing blame on the State Department here. Look, there is no parallel. There is no contemporary parallel to what we're seeing. There's none. There hasn't been, I would imagine, for at least a century, probably much longer than that. So to answer your question, or I guess to kind of concern that issue, I think you were exactly correct. I do think that this is, and I'm no theological scholar. I'm no theologian, obviously, but I would say that this is certainly or at least the extremist elements of this religion, very certainly. We see evidence that they obviously need to undergo some sort of moderation or some kind of reformation. We haven't seen that. We won't see that in our lifetimes, I don't think. The downside is, I don't know that they're gonna cut us any slack with the whole turn the other cheek philosophy.
Yeah, I'm waiting patiently because I did see one little sign that Islam may have their Luther, their
mm-hmm.
individual to start Reformation, and that would be El-Sisi in Egypt. That is a possibility, but he is not a theologian, but he did have the nerve on the 1st of January of this year to tell the imams in Egypt, this needs to stop. The radicalism must stop now. And then we had a second sign of that from the King of Jordan, essentially saying that ISIS is not Islam. Now, Mr. Wood is right. It is Islam. But King Abdullah saying it isn't is important because he is pointing out that there are portions of Islam that are moving away from this radicalism, and they ostensibly may be heading into a reformation of sorts, at least on a small scale, which I'm going to be happy to see any reformation at all. That would be a good thing.
It's certainly encouraging whenever we see, and it's very encouraging when we see people say we are not these people. I don't care what religion you are, or if you are of no religion at all. Every time somebody says that's not us, that's a good thing, and the more the better. So if that's coming from inside the Islamic religion, that's a very, very encouraging thing. But frankly, I'll take anybody in border on the planet saying that, because this is, of course, this is a growing movement. This is a movement that's really, it's spreading very quickly,
Right.
and it's attracting people from around the world. So it's very important, I think, that very strong social pressure be kept on not allowing this to become really, I'm sorry to run on here. It's very important that this is not something that has that romanticized element. Go here, find purpose, defeat bad guys. Because everybody wants to do that. Everybody wants to be part of a desperate struggle, and these people are fighting a desperate struggle. We need to make sure that everyone needs to make sure that the point is made that this is not a desperate struggle. This is pure evil incarnate and must be stopped, must be crushed out.
Right, and it's not about the fact that they don't have jobs. Oh, dear. Now, David, are you able to stick around after a break here?
Sure.
Okay. Well, we've been talking to David Brown, and you would have known him previously as D.B. Grady, the author of Deep State, Inside the Government Secrecy,
which is a book you should read, by the way. It's a book you should read.
Yes,
I don't
it
think
is.
you should read it.
Of course.
I agree. I think everyone should own 2 or 3 copies, frankly.
Well, we will be right back after this break.
Play my disclaimer, please.
I am. It is in the break.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hello, this is Liz Harrison from The Right War here on FTR Radio. And when I want to bring you the best conservative talk on the net, I use Radio Boss from djsoft.net.
Hi, this is Taylor Millard, co-host of The Right War, heard here on FTR Radio. I'll give you one simple reason why you need to listen to Liz Harrison and me every Wednesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern. You never know when I'm going to put my foot in my mouth. Liz, I've had similar situations with you in bed. Wait,
What? What?
That just came out way wrong. That's The Right War, every Wednesdays and Thursdays at 11 p.m. Eastern, here on FTR Radio.
This is the Pint-Sized Pundit, and I'm here to tell you that anything Taylor says on The Right War is his opinion and his opinion only. He does not speak for his employees, his employers, employer, or anyone else. He especially does not speak for my mom unless she says so.
Hey, this is Alfonso Rachel with 20 Pound Sledge and PJTV Zone Nation, and you're listening to FTR.
Hi, this is John Bolton, and you're listening to FTR Radio.
And we're back. We have been talking to David Brown, who you should be reading on The Atlantic, The Week, etc. And, of course, you need to buy, if you haven't already, Deep State, Inside the Government Secrecy Industry, which is by D.B. Grady, but that would also be David Brown.
Right, and the story behind that, by the way, when I first started in this business, that was a very long time ago, 8 or 9 years ago. And David Brown, that's almost like a CIA cover name. That name is so common. There are so many terrible David Brown writers out there. So I was advised to get a pseudonym, and I got one, and I was kind of stuck with it for a long time. But after a while, I was like, well, hell, I'm the best David Brown writer there is. So I'm claiming the name. Like, it's mine now. Other people have to go their own way now. So,
hey, that works. See, I did the whole marriage thing to resolve my dilemma as far as names were concerned, because my name is, or at least was, my maiden name, Elizabeth Ross. Cue all jokes about Betsy Ross. And of course, you had people who wondered if I was possibly Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and I was like, no, I don't get into the whole grief thing. So, got married, got the name Harrison, and ran with that after running with Ross Harrison for a while, and I still have that legally because I still have people who pay me under the maiden name. Go figure. Well, you can't get their accounting departments to change the, records. So, that's advice to the ladies out there. If you get married, no matter how much the guy sits there and tells you, you got to take my name, baby, you got to take my name, hyphenate, sweetheart. It's the best advice I could give you, because God forbid you ever end up with a check in your maiden name. You're going to go through hell trying to cash it. It is a horrible situation. I actually watched a woman in the bank ready to bang her head against the wall because she was there with her birth certificate, her marriage certificate, her photo ID, and they still gave her hell. It's like, really? Wow. Yeah, I think she even had her Social Security card, the old one under the maiden name, plus the new one under the married name, with the same damn number on it. And they were still like, that can't be the same person. Oh, good God.
You would think by now we would be familiar with the whole concept of changing your name when you get married, but I guess every person starts over.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing it to fight the terrorists, you see.
Yeah, and people who are gay want this headache. Good God. Go with the personal contract and be done with it. It's a hell of a lot easier. Seriously. But I figure you might want to let people know a little bit about the book. Even though it is about things that are relatively dated, it still applies, because even though we're not necessarily dealing so much with Chelsea Manning.
Sure. The broader strokes of the book certainly are still relevant with respect to really just the construction of the security apparatus of the United States, how things work. Those elements haven't changed, and certainly to get some historical context for what's going on today. I mean, you certainly don't get Edward Snowden without going into Chelsea Manning and going further back into whoever came before Chelsea Manning, Bradley Manning, right.
Julian Assange.
Of course, Julian Assange, right? We go into a lot of detail. But we're also very proud when we look at a lot of the Snowden revelations. We actually got there first, and we didn't have the advantage of having the source documents smuggled from the NSA. When we talk about really the kind of the workings of certain programs, these are programs that I think everybody had a pretty good idea existed. And we were able to really get a better understanding of why they exist and how they exist, and under what legal authority they exist, how they came to be, and in what ways can the state reform these types of programs so that they don't, say, violate obviously Fourth Amendment rights and so on. So we're very proud of the reporting that we did in that book, but also a lot of the conclusions that we made really seem to be standing up as time goes by. And again, I think it would make a lovely late Valentine's Day gift if you forgot to get something for your wife or husband. And and now St. Patrick's Day is just around the corner. 3 or 4 copies. I think the cover of the book is it green? No, it's like a yellowish color. I don't know what color the book is, but whatever color it is, it'll go great.
Greenish.
Greenish. That's perfect. Yeah.
I would also like to make a suggestion. My birthday happens to be March 4th. So if you want, now I already own the book, so you don't have to give it to me. But if you want to give it to your loved one,
in honor of his birthday,
exactly. That's how you do it.
And I'll tell you one thing: none of your listeners got me a birthday present. Mine was January 3rd, so you could make it up to me by. I think we're onto something here.
By buying the book.
Right.
Yeah. I think mine's a little bit too far back because it was the day after Christmas.
No. That's still good.
All right. Yeah, I'm kind of curious because this is something that I've said, and not that I want this to happen, because I really don't want this to happen. Mm-hmm. We've discussed, destroying ISIS or trying to destroy ISIS. Right. And is really the only way to do that, and I don't want this to happen, is the only way to do this dropping an atomic bomb right in between Iraq and Syria?
I do not think that would happen.
I don't want it to happen, and I don't think it will either. But.
Right. I don't know that we're going to go to the nuclear option, even if that's would be a certain avenue to victory. Would that even work? I dare say that would probably create a few terrorists down the line. That might make people dislike us quite a bit. I think that if we are going to look at what avenues would work to defeat this threat, I think to a certain extent, obviously airstrikes are certainly a step in the right direction. I think one thing that a lot of people have observed over the last few years as we've pulled away from human intelligence and really moved to sort of a drone-centric strategy of espionage and surveillance, you really lose something when you don't have that human element. It's very hard to have agents penetrate these types of agencies or to recruit or these types of organizations, or to actually recruit members of these organizations into to be intelligence assets. That's very difficult work, and it's very dangerous work. The downside is whenever you stop doing it, you really start to pay for it. You really start to feel it. We might have great imagery intelligence, but it's not really helping us right now, is it? It certainly didn't help those 20 or so people who were beheaded last week. So it's one thing that is certainly going to help is going to be to reinvest our intelligence assets to human intelligence, get people on the ground, get people into these types of organizations. How long will that take? That's the downside. Like, if that's something we started today, it might be several years before it paid off. I do think, however, that it would pay off for a very long time. So, right. I mean, those are things that are certainly going to help. Now, once we get... I'm just going to assume that once the authorization for use of military force passes, I strongly suspect that we're going to see at least 50,000 soldiers sent over there. I mean, that's I think that's a reasonable number, and I think that's probably going to happen. That, depending on what types of operations they're doing, even if it's just basic, I mean, just straightforward going there and setting up shop, I think that's going to have a major psychological influence on the enemy. I think that they're going to say that they're certainly going to have to reevaluate their strategy. Now they're not up against ragtag fighters or armies that our special forces have raised specifically to fight this enemy. Now they're dealing with a professional military, and that's not something they've really had to face before. And I do think it's something that will, again, psychologically devastate them, quite frankly, and that's before we even go in there and actually start killing them. So now they're going to have, conversely, we're going to have to again deal with the concept or the idea of one of our guys, being taken out by their guys, and as a country, that's something that we're going to have to deal with, and I think it's going to be a traumatic experience.
I'm only hoping it's going to be galvanizing, though. As in,
well,
they do that, I don't want to see people turn tail and run. I want to see them get pissed off and want to go back after them even more. Right,
that would be very nice, but quite frankly, that kind of thing, I think, to a certain extent, comes from the top. And look, here's the thing: I would very much like to say that, but at the same time, if I see that the people who are leading this war aren't serious about winning it, why should I want us to reinvest? Why not just leave? Because if they're not going to win, I can wave the flag all I want, but it's not going to kill an ISIS fighter.
Well, I'm not even necessarily talking about the flag waving there. I'm sitting here saying I want to see the people end up supporting our troops more than they have.
Right.
I know that, and basically make it clear to their representatives and their senators that, okay, we've lost someone. We're skipping the grief phase because we've been there.
Right.
We're already at the we want revenge phase. Go get them.
I've written quite a bit about that, and I read a piece again for Vox last year on this very subject. That to a certain extent, we've really internalized the war. It's not something that the country's doing. It's simply something that is. The war is just, if you are, I mean, there are soldiers now in the Army who are, I don't know, in kindergarten on 9/11, so they have no concept of life before there was always a war going on somewhere. And to a great extent, to a tragic extent, the only time we really pay attention to the conflicts going on today that involve American military forces is when something totally disruptive happens. So last year you had Bo Bergdahl. Suddenly we started paying attention. Hey, was this guy, was he a traitor? Was he a hostage? What happened? People started paying attention, asking questions. Of course, we got some very depressing answers once we started asking those questions. But it was an encouraging sign that people actually even cared to want to know. So over the course of this conflict, is that going to happen? I think it's certainly going to happen. I would rather be for something positive rather than negative. But again, that remains to be seen.
Yeah. Now, I know that in the book, you evidently went into at least a little bit about bin Laden. Mm-hmm. I'm going to admit I did not have a chance to read through the whole book because very short advance time. Did you know that?
I haven't read it either.
Smart Alec. But I have been of the opinion all along that we were lucky to get bin Laden.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the president holding back, procrastinating, not making the decision to go in and do it, even though he was being told, we have reliable intelligence, we know he's there. And it was literally just a fight tooth and nail to get him to say yes. And we've seen this again when it comes to Sokolov and the rest of them, the beheadings of the individuals. They lost the opportunity to get the hostages from ISIS. Now, that is a concern for me.
And rightfully so. Well,
I keep on trying to, and I can't wrap my head around it because you're still stuck with the commander-in-chief deal. I wish there was a way that Congress could sit there and say in this authorization that, when we have the intelligence, we don't need the order.
Right.
Basically, give the military standing orders. You find information, you act, as long as it's reliable and set up a standard for what is reliable.
Yeah, but right. That would be a very interesting situation, and I would imagine with coalition forces such a thing would be possible. But again, when we talk about coalition forces in this type of scenario, usually whoever the commander is going to be is probably going to be an American. I know we've as a country we've beaten to death the whole bin Laden story, but there's something that I just have to say. And I felt this way the day after he was killed, and I still feel this way, and I don't think that this gives enough people say this enough. Look, I personally don't consider sending, some of the greatest commandos in the world to kill one old man. I don't consider that as like a particularly daring move, like to give that order. That seems like a pretty easy order. It would be, to me, sending, I don't know, a squad of janitors to kill him would be far more risky and far more bold. Like, how did he know that these guys would be able to pull it off? Like, SEAL Team 6, I was pretty sure that they could get the guy. That would be an easy decision for me, but that's just me. I think people give too much gravity to the decision to send these guys to kill Bin Laden. But again, I guess that's something that we've litigated to death, and there's no sense in beating that dead horse.
Right. It's a shame it didn't happen under Bush, because this wasn't Obama's accomplishment. People have to understand that the rank and file workers in national security, in intelligence, in the military, it doesn't matter who is sitting in the White House. The highest commanders may change and shuffle around, but the real workers underneath that are out there doing the actual work, it doesn't matter to them who is in the White House. They're still going to do the same job.
Yeah, when we were writing Deep State, we started the book obviously about a year before Bin Laden was killed, and I think we finished about a year after. When we first started writing the book, one of our goals was to say, who are these people who are these people doing this job? We just wanted to talk about the story of various elements of the intelligence community. I mean, nobody knows what the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency is, so we wanted to make sure that we kind of gave it a face and helped people understand what these people do and why it matters. After Bin Laden was killed, people were very interested to talk not only to us but to basically any reporter who would listen, because that was a major accomplishment that involved hundreds of thousands of people, and those people wanted to get a little bit of credit too, not necessarily just to pat themselves on the back, but to say, hey, this is something that I've put in 80-hour work weeks in for the last 6 years. I just want people to know that I did this for my country, and I'm very proud of it. And that was a very moving experience to talk to people who had been doing that and who'd put so much for so long. And it was very humbling to be able to report their stories. And that's something that, unfortunately, or fortunately, depends on how you look at it, we're going to have to say for a very long time, because obviously this military conflict's not going away. It doesn't look like we're ever going to leave Afghanistan, ever in our lifetimes. So there are going to be a lot of people who have to do this. And it's fortunate that we have people like that, but it's unfortunate that we can't win these damn wars and let these people have some vacations.
Tom Clancy called it.
He sure did.
Now, I said before, I have a clue, at least because of my dad, from all of the years he had been involved in the military infrastructure, first as a member of the military, then as an individual working in the civilian workforce, but with a primary client of the government. I understood from a very young age that the government does a lot of things that we don't understand, like when I saw the lovely Al Pacino movie where he was the CIA trainer and turned on the CIA. The recruit, I believe it was, he said at the beginning, when they were going out to be trained to be field officers, why do you want this job? Because you only end up in the news when you fail. When you succeed, you get a medal in a room and you don't get to take it home and nobody ever knows about it. How likely do you think it is that we've had foiled ISIS attacks that have not been leaked?
I believe personally that it's probably very unlikely that there have been any type of ISIS attack on, say, I would certainly say U.S. soil, if only because that's something that probably would leak. Not only because, say, I don't know, the guy on the ground couldn't wait to tell his girlfriend, hey, guess what I just did, but simply, one thing that we talk about in Deep State, that there are good leaks and there are bad leaks, and a lot of times, and leaks by the government are actually, they serve a purpose, and they serve an almost institutionalized purpose. A lot of things are leaked simply because they have to be. People need to know, and people would need to know that. That's something that would absolutely end up in the press in one form or another, if only to either galvanize the public, let the public know this is a threat that is ongoing, and it's a lot more severe than you thought. And so...
yeah, I agree with you entirely with that, and that's why I asked, because this administration has been doing everything they possibly can. They have been tap dancing around the concept of trying to minimize the threat of ISIS.
Right.
The JV team, and now they're saying that their real problem is that they don't have jobs. It has nothing to do with recruiting people to be in a vast struggle that will lead to the apocalypse of the world.
Right, and we see the same impulse with respect to Al Qaeda. Al Qaeda is certainly not a force that's been vanquished, but even in this authorization for military force, it actually withdraws. I believe this is the 2003 authorization, 2002 from the first Iraq War, and it basically minimizes the threat of Al Qaeda. So there's certainly the president's trying to have it both ways. He's trying to say they're not really a threat. At the same time, he's trying to say, but we need to kill them. I need the authority to kill them. So,
right.
Which is it? Which is it?
And
you
that's why I was suspecting that maybe if we did have something foiled on U.S. soil, we might not have heard about it because of this administration.
If there's one thing Obama's good at, it's taking credit for things. I think it would have leaked, and I think we would have found out that it was the president's personal daring do and cunning that was able to thwart this evil plan. So we're
yeah, it's a hard thing to do because it's like a double-edged sword. There, does he want to brag about it, or does he want to hide it so he doesn't have to admit that it's a problem? Well, we're getting to about that time, so. Thank you, David Brown, and we should have everybody following you on Twitter, which is Taylor.
At DB Grady. That is at DB Grady.
Grady.
Yes.
And other than that, catch you at the Atlantic and Vox and The Week and.
Again, anyone who'll pay me, and if anyone's listening who wants to send me money, I'm happy to take it.
Exactly. Capitalism, baby. We will be back here tomorrow night. It is, of course, Freedom Works night, so everybody loves pie. Jason Pie should be here. And hopefully we'll end up with a nice argument so that we can have his boss all nervous about whether or not he ticked me off.
Don't we want to get his boss on eventually, though?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Well, good night, folks.
The staff of K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network is proud to announce that our very own Rowdy Rick Robinson has been selected as one of the top conservative talk show hosts in the nation for his program America Off the Rails. Again, congratulations to Rowdy Rick Robinson for a job well done and another reason to stay connected to K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network. K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level, or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com.